Welcome back to the Other Side of 45 podcast. I'm your host, Randy Black. This podcast is about taking chances, owning my mistakes, addressing generational and family trauma, curses, and trauma, completing my 50s by 50 list, my life as a single empty nester, and inviting others who have similar backgrounds to share their story. If this is your first time listening, welcome. Please subscribe and rate this podcast 5 stars. So, if you're a regular listener or a supporter, then you know it has been several weeks since I have recorded and posted a podcast episode. Well, it is because I have had to have surgery. I had surgery on January 20th. I had a hysterectomy. It's a full hysterectomy. They did leave my ovaries. I will go into depth about the recovery on another episode. I just want to catch you up on what happened and where I am. So, this episode, I kind of not only do I want to catch you up, but I also want to address listening to Black women. Okay, so I want to tell you the story first and then get into how it relates to me. So a couple of years ago, on social media, a friend of mine from high school, a Black male who has a daughter, posted a question, I guess. And he was basically, what he said was, he was like, ladies, is it true? I don't believe that, your cycles are this bad or the cramps are that bad. Basically, he was saying we're liars. Women are liars, whatever. And I was not that keen on this particular topic, because it's like, you, male, who can not prove, is going to question what people who do have cycles are telling you. Awesome. So there was a woman in his comments who mentioned that she do think that women exaggerate. Now, I don't know how they can prove that, but for some reason, people believe that they can tell how other people are feeling. I don't know. Anyway, so she says, I'm probably going to get a lot of backlash, but yes, I do believe that women do exaggerate their cycles. Now, she says that, and then she says, although I myself had really bad cycles until I had my children, and then I didn't have those cramps anymore. So you can acknowledge and believe that you can have pain, but you don't think other women can? Make that make sense. And then there was another comment there were several women who were defending it, of course. And one in particular was someone that I knew from high school. And anyway, it doesn't matter. Not just high school. We went to school together from elementary through high school. But she was saying about her personal experience and how difficult it was for her. Now, what bothered me in particular for him to say that because you have a Black daughter that you're raising. So I was thinking in my head, and I didn't comment. I typically won't comment on such things. I hope that his daughter doesn't encounter men, physicians who think like him, who won't believe her. See, I don't think that he thought, hey, what if my daughter is in pain? What if my daughter is experiencing something and she needs help? And the people that she go to don't believe her. Believe us. Period. There's nothing more to add to that. Now, I wanted to also talk about an issue that I had when my oldest daughter was a baby. She wasn't even a year old yet. She had what her pediatrician at the time said was asthma. She coughing all the time, like could barely breathe. And she gave us a nebulizer machine, but it just didn't seem like it was working. And my mom would have it, and we didn't see a difference. She wasn't getting better. So I'm telling the story to my coworker. I'm at work and I'm telling him, I'm frustrated. I'm going through divorce. I'm pregnant. Lots going on. And now my baby, I'm a new mom. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what in the world am I going to do? This doctor's telling me this, but I don't see any changes. And she just so happened to have gone to the exact same pediatrician. And she said she experienced the exact same thing. She said, this person does not know what she's doing, or she's not diagnosing us right, not giving us the right medication, whatever. She said, I take my kids here. This is a pediatrician office. We're all Black female pediatricians. So I immediately change the pediatrician for my daughter. I think it was maybe a couple weeks. Boom, we're in this new pediatrician. A black woman. I tell her what's going on. She knows I'm pregnant, and she gives my daughter some medication that day. We never had to use a nebulizer again. The medication she gave basically cut it out. I'm not even sure she even had asthma. She took that medication and never had issues again. And that was, for me, enough to say, I need to make sure that my kids go to a black pediatrician and stay with black pediatricians and stay with black doctors. And this is me. My daughter is 22 now. And she has, both of my girls have been very healthy kids. I'm very fortunate. They're very healthy kids. And she got strep throat for the first time in 2023 as a 22-year-old. For the first time, she has strep. She was scared. She was like, we were talking on the phone a couple of days ago, and she's telling me about her throat. And she said, Mommy, I have strep. I was like, how do you know? She's like, I went to the doctor. They told me I'm on antibiotics. I said, well, it's not a big deal. You know, I've heard of strep before, so I wasn't alarmed. Well, because she's never had it, and she's, I've heard of it, I've never had it. It's so bad. My throat hurts. And I said, well, you guys were really healthy, so y'all didn't have a lot of these things. And she said, yeah. And I was telling somebody that, and they were surprised. Like, you've never had strep throat? And she was like, no, never had strep. So she's like, yeah, we were pretty healthy. So I've been very fortunate for that. I've kept my girls seeing black doctors when we could. Now, my situation. I got some new insurance in 2022, early part of 2022. So the doctor that they assigned me was not a black female doctor. And that's fine. They give you an opportunity to change. I changed it. For some reason, it would not stick. So by the time I went to my first, I think I waited a couple of months, and he was still listed. The person they had listed was of Indian descent. Very nice doctor. He was an internal medicine doctor. I have high blood pressure, so it had been suggested to me to keep your PCP, which is primary care physician, as an internal medicine doctor, because they're better equipped to deal with high blood pressure. So I was pretty okay with that, but I still wanted a black doctor. So I went to see him, to get my physical. They had a panel blood work done. The results came back on the portal. I saw my blood count was 7. My hemoglobin level was 7. And I was pretty excited. And I go see him. This is so funny. So I go see him, and he's like, he was monitoring my high blood pressure, which he had gotten it down with the medication, but it wasn't as low as he wanted it. So we're talking about that, and we're talking about my hemoglobin. He was like, okay, so your hemoglobin stuff. I was like, yeah, I know. I was like really excited. And he was like, why? That's not good. So, I told him about my history. I said, look, I'm used to dealing with 5. I said, it's even going as low as 4, and I'm still going to work. And he was like, well, just because you were able to do that doesn't mean that this is normal. He didn't say exactly that way, but that was what his point was. He said, we need to get you into the normal range. So he said, we need to get you to have at minimum 2 iron infusions. And I did post those on Instagram when I had both of my iron infusions. And I had tried to schedule all of my appointments during the summer of 2022. So my appointment with him was either June or July, and I couldn't get to see my black gynecologist until September. Well, it is what it is. So I finally see her in September, and she does her exam, and at first she couldn't find my uterus, and that is because the size of my fibroids were so large that it shifted my uterus. Yes, scary stuff. So she tells me at this point, the only thing we can do that is going to change anything is a hysterectomy to remove the uterus. That way the fibroids won't come back, and they're quite large. And so I was like, okay, gotta have surgery. You do? Fine. But she had asked me, and did I know that I had fibroids? And I was like, yeah. So I tell a story about my white gynecologist, how she had told me that I had fibroids, and at the time they were small, and that she had recommended ablation surgery. And by now, gynecologist in 2022 says, well, it is way too late for that, and she should have done it back then. And I hadn't mentioned this, but my PCP had said the same. He asked me why I didn't have the ablation those years ago, and I said, well, because my hemoglobin was a 7, and my gyno at the time told me it needed to be a 10. He said, well, that's not true. And I was like, well, maybe the science didn't exist. Maybe it exists now, and it didn't exist then. That's been a couple years. And he was like, no, the science, it existed. She just didn't want to do it. So now I'm at September, and my gynecologist is saying the exact same thing. She said, she left you to suffer. And I was enraged. I was like, so she could have done this. She just chose not to. She was like, yeah. And I was so angry. So I go see my surgeon after this. You know, they have you do the ultrasound to see how bad things are. I see the surgeon after I get the ultrasound, and she tells me again, confirming everything. Yeah, we got to have the surgery. We need to make sure we need to have the surgery pretty soon, because my gyno had said we need to have them within 3 months because you're getting worse. And the medication that she put me on, she said it's going to wear off because these fibroids are so large. This isn't going to last long. So within 3 months, you need to have a surgery. So that was September. I see the surgeon maybe in September or so. But I needed to wait 1 full month after my last iron infusion, to see what my numbers would be like for my hemoglobin. So, the numbers came out great. I hear nothing from the surgeon. All of a sudden in December, I find out, yes, you're going to have surgery. It's going to be on January 20th. They literally left me a message that said that. So they scheduled me an appointment with my new general practitioner, a black woman. And she says the exact same thing that the surgeon said, my black gyno said, and my former PCP says. This white gynecologist left you to suffer. And that's the thing. Every time I heard that last year, I thought, who would do this? Why would someone have the ability to make you well and don't? She was going to get her money. I had the insurance. So why didn't she? It's not even that she didn't believe me. She knew. She saw the fibroids. She did all the tests. She knew, and she made a decision to let me continue to suffer. And that bothers me. It bothered me. It doesn't bother me anymore. It's over with. There's nothing I can do. But it bothered me at that moment because now I had to have a major surgery that could have been prevented years ago. And not only that, up until that point, I was suffering big time suffering. But this is where I am now. The surgery is over. I'm still working on recovering. There's no pain anymore. I'm able to do most of the things. My surgeon told me that I needed to stay out the full 8 weeks. Of course, due to the size. But other than that, I'm feeling a lot better. I do have fatigue. I get tired very easily, which is why I haven't been able to do podcast episodes, because sitting up and doing an episode takes a lot out of me. And it makes me tired. So I made a decision to actually rest. And when I started feeling physically better, then to get back into it. So I'm not as fatigued as I used to be immediately after surgery. But I still get tired. So I was very tired today. But I was like, you can do this. So I did rest. As a matter of fact, I fell asleep because because I was so tired. I slept for 4 hours. I was only supposed to sleep an hour, but that's how tired I was. But I've been doing fun things, and they've been on Instagram, and I'm going to do an episode and talk about the fun things that I've been doing, things that I'm looking forward to. I'll talk more about the cult, all the things. So I'm coming back full-fledged for 2023 because I'm feeling great, and things are much better. And matter of fact, I do want to add this. My black PCP said to me in December, you're going to be doing so great in 2023. And I'm going to hold her to that. She said, you're going to be doing wonderful. Great. So I'm looking forward to great things happening in 2023. So just like Mary J. Blige says in a theme song for My Life, Just Fine. I like what I see when I'm looking at me, when I'm walking past the mirror. Don't stress through the night at a time in my life. Ain't worried about if you feel it. Got my head on straight. I got my vibe right. I ain't going to let you kill it. You see, I wouldn't change my life. My life's just fine. Meet me on the other side of 45's podcast, website, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. New episodes will be released every Monday. Thank you for tuning in. Please rate the podcast 5 stars on Apple Podcasts so others can find it. It helps me grow my podcast. Your feedback and support are greatly appreciated. If you want to share your story and be a guest on the podcast, please email me at host at theothersideof45.com.